Waited so long for this opportunity, Richie Woodall. It's been very frustrating for him, postponements and politics. But now Woodall is here, and this is his big chance. Mickey Duff making his way to the ring in front of him there. And what a boost it would be for British boxing if Richie Woodall could do what Nigel Benn did and what Alan Minter did, come to the United States and win a world middleweight title. In his case, the WBC version. Well, Robin Reed last week in Italy, Glenn, was a bit of an inspiration, really, winning against the odds. Woodall has got to do the same, but of course there is this big question with the injury that he has. An operation on his right elbow only 9 days before the fight. That is a worry.
It is a worry, but it is a difficult task, but he's waited so long for this task. You've got to expect him to be very, very up for it. It's difficult. He's got to go to his opponent's backyard, but he wants it. He's been quietly confident throughout the build-up, and I think we're going to see Woodall in a very confident mood.
That's what they're fighting for. Keith Holmes' WBC championship belt. Holmes himself, tall, gangling southpaw. He looks a little bit tense and nervous there, doesn't he? First defense of the championship, he won against Quincy Taylor with a very impressive display on a fight buried deep on the undercard of the Bruno Tyson bill back in March. But he's no Marvin Hagler, is he?
He's not a feared sort of fighter. He's only just moved up from light middleweight himself, so really it was a good win for him against Taylor. He's just settling into this division. He is quite a tall, awkward southpaw, so I think it's a fight where Woodall has really got to impose himself from the first bell.
Holmes, who grew up on the grim streets of Washington, a bit of a troubled background. At one time, he was in prison for attempted murder at the age of 24, but he was acquitted. He said, "I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I'm clean now." He was also run down by a police car when he was 4 years old. The car was doing 65 miles an hour at the time. It's a wonder he's alive, really, let alone has gone on to become a world champion. There's the tail of the tape for you. Woodall is a year older, at the same height. At the weigh-in, Woodall 11 stone 4, and Holmes pretty light at 11.3, and a slight reach advantage for the beanpole Holmes. Richie Woodall, very much the European style of fight. A bit of a question mark really about whether the judges would like that style. WBC rules, there is no 3 knockdown rule. That's probably the main thing to note there. The fighter can't be saved by the bell except in the last round of the fight. Otherwise, the usual WBC rules. The two fighters had a real face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation at the weigh-in, which seems to have become fairly standard stuff these days. And Holmes told Woodall, "I'm going to punch holes in you." I think Woodall's seen enough in his career not to take too much notice of that.
Well, fans, as always on Showtime Championship Boxing, a donation of $5,000 will be made by Don King Productions and Showtime to the United Negro College Fund, the National Hispanic Scholarship Fund, and tonight to Bowie University. This donation will be made in the name of the fighter of the night, who will be selected by an expert panel of judges at the conclusion of tonight's action. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the Showplace Arena here in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, for the featured attraction of the evening, brought to you by Don King Productions. This bout coming away is sanctioned by the World Boxing Council, the President Jose Sulaiman, Supervisor at ringside Gilbert Ware, along with the Maryland State Athletic Commission, the Chairman Carl L. Milligan Jr., Executive Director Patrick Piniella, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Licensing and Regulation is Eugene A. Conti Jr. Physicians at ringside, Dr. Stephen Manikin, Dr. Frank Garman, Dr. Douglas Frankel. Timekeeper at the bell, also keeping count of the knockdowns, we have Don Risher. Presenting to you the judges scoring this bout from ringside, Juan Jose Guerra, Angel Luis Guzman, and Ken Morita. All right, fans, here we go with the main event event of the evening. And now, ladies and gentlemen in attendance and boxing fans joining us around the world, it's showtime! With the WBC Middleweight Championship of the World scheduled for 12 rounds of boxing. Presenting to you first the challenger on my left, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing blue trunks with white trim. He hails from Telford, England. He weighed in at 158 pounds. He is undefeated in his campaign in the ring with 21 wins, no losses, with 13 wins coming by way of knockout. Tonight, he is making his American debut in the squared circle. Please welcome the former European champion and current WBC #1 ranked contender, introducing Richie Woodall. And presenting the defending champion on my right, fighting out of the red corner, making this mandatory defense of his crown. He is wearing blue trunks, fighting out of and representing his hometown and our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. He weighed in at a ready 157 pounds. His record includes 29 wins, 1 defeat, with 19 wins coming by way of knockout. Tonight he is making the first defense of his title, introducing the current WBC middleweight champion of the world, introducing Keith Holmes. And presenting to you our referee in charge of this bout, Boxing Hall of Fame referee working in this is 125th world title bout, Arthur Mercanti Sr.
Well, we couldn't have a better referee for this one. Arthur Mercanti Sr. goes back to the first Ali Frazier fight. Of the two of them, Holmes looks the more nervous, doesn't he?
He does. He looks very pensive.
You both know the rules of the WBC. I'll be here to enforce them, and you better obey them. Shake hands now. Come out boxing at the bell. Good luck.
Short and sweet. Well, this is the moment for Woodall, and I wonder whether he's going to abandon his usual style and really try to impose himself on Holmes. He does have the injury. I think privately they're worried about whether that injury will see him through 12 rounds. I think it's still pain for him to throw a right hand that misses its target. One or two stories that he went through the roof in sparring after the operation trying to throw the right hand, but they're taking a calculated gamble. They've waited so long for the chance of the Woodall camp that now it's here. They feel they've got to go ahead with it even with the injury. Holmes is usually the slick boxing sort. He certainly was against Quincy Taylor, kept things at range, and in the end found the punch to get rid of Taylor as well. So what does Woodall do here? Unbeaten in 21 so far, Commonwealth Championship, European Championship. Now can he make the graduation to world class?
Because you would expect it to be a little bit of a chess match with both their styles. They're both pretty much thinking fighters, good boxers. But I think Woodall just needs to be a little bit different in this fight. He needs to be a little bit more carefree, and he needs to go for it more. He's got to really impose himself right from the beginning.
Just interesting to watch how often he tries to throw the right hand. Well, he tried to throw it then and didn't land with it. I don't see him wincing too much in pain. No-nonsense sort of character, Woodall, who's disdainful of anything pretentious or flashy. Big fan of West Bromwich Albion. He often trains with the players. He was looking for an omen in their result yesterday. There was none. They drew 1-1 against Grimsby. Pretty cagey stuff early on.
Yes, neither man really going all out. They're both just trying to get their jabs in range. It's pretty much as we expected in an opening round like this.
Nice right hand over the top there by Holmes. Holmes, who gives it plenty of lateral movement all the time. He's not the easiest target. But always the feeling with the fighter fighting away from home, particularly fighting a Don King fighter away in America, that he really does have to rip the title away.
He doesn't. Holmes just landing with a good jab, just to rock the head back of Woodall. It's very difficult trading jabs with a southpaw, and I think Woodall has got to be have a little bit more of a carefree attitude and let the right hand go as often as he can.
Better work really from Holmes, to be honest with you, in this opening round. He's missed a lot here, Woodall. Just looks a little bit stiff and tentative early on. Maybe that's understandable. But we wondered whether we might see some all-out aggression from him early. No sign of that. Holmes, the former street tough in streets not very far from the White House, is the one who's done the better work in this opening round. Second round at the Showplace Arena in Upper Marlborough, about 20 miles from Washington in Maryland. And Britain's Richie Woodall from Telford in Shropshire with his back to you, trying to take this WBC middleweight crown away from Keith Holmes, who's making his first defense of the title.
Woodall just having a little bit difficulty getting his distance right. He's just out of distance with his punches. Needs to try and get closer. Just close the distance down with his feet. But quite a nice start from Keith Holmes.
He looked nervous beforehand, but he started confidently enough. And you feel that Woodall has to do something fairly soon to just try and take the play away from him a little.
Yes, and I think it could well be a mistake for Woodall to stand back. He's got to try and get close, land with the right hand, bring the left hook behind that. He's got to try and pin this man down a little.
Counter punch was a good one there from Woodall with the left hand. And then a good right hand too, and then another left. Now this is better from the British challenger. It's not a man to be underestimated, Richie Woodall. Bags of amateur experience before he turned professional. He won an Olympic Games bronze medal in Seoul, 1988. It's a thinking kind of fighter. He'll be working things out in there all the time. Cool brain.
Yes, he just switched it around a second. Just try to let Holmes come to him. Just bring him on, try and counter punch. And he's done it a little more successfully in this round, Woodall.
Certainly given Holmes a wee bit more to think about in this round. Last 40 seconds or so of round two. In this converted equestrian centre set up for the night for boxing. Maybe Chris Eubank in his jodhpurs would feel at home here.
Woodall still having a little trouble getting his distance. Needs just to step that little bit closer in to land with the jab.
He's certainly looking to counter for the most part, isn't he? Certainly not leading very much, Woodall. But that's a much closer round. Richie Woodall in the corner with Mickey Duff and Denny Mancini and his father, Len Woodall. I wonder if we can hear what they're saying there.
Right. Don't forget you can show him one, like we were doing, show him one and hit him with the other. Now, come on now, you're here to do it, Richie. You're here to do it, son. Not to make the number up, you're here to do it.
Denny Mancini doing the talking. He's been around all over the world. Great cuts man, Denny.
You see the jab work, you see the combinations when he makes it, okay? You see the counter shot.
Keith Holmes with Claude Boga and Yanks Morton in the corner. Well, what can I tell you? The second round was certainly better than the first for Woodall. He's certainly not been in any kind of trouble in the fight so far, but his work rate hasn't been as high as we'd been led to believe it might be here. He said he was going to overwhelm him with the pace of his work rate, and then he'd be looking for Holmes to fade late on in the fight.
Yes, well, you got the feeling from Denny Mancini that they wanted a little bit more from Woodall. They said you're not here to make the numbers up, so I think they wanted to really assert himself a little more.
It must be very difficult for him psychologically, knowing that he's had a far from ideal preparation with the operation on the elbow, and in the past he's always had problems with his hands. Good right hand to the body there, though, from Woodall. Had surgery on both hands earlier on in his career, Richie Woodall.
It's a good fast body punch from Woodall, but he's got to try and bring something else behind that. He needs to take the eye of the judges by landing combinations of punches.
Good right hand. For the most part, it's Holmes who's the one who's coming forward, and Woodall looking for the counters. Holmes, who claims that his big strength is his ability to outthink his opponents.
Yes, well, this is what he's trying to do here with Woodall. He's been pretty defensive, but he's still getting through with his own counters. He's taking the fight a little bit to Woodall by he's the one walking forward, so that just attracts the judge's eye a little more. But he's very much a thinking fighter, pretty smooth boxing southpaw.
Body shot from Holmes. The judges, by the way, none of them are actually American. We've got a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, and a Japanese doing the scoring here. And he made to miss with those, Holmes, despite the cheers from his supporters in the crowd. Referee Arthur McCanty Sr. still looking as fit as a fiddle, and he's 70-odd, isn't he now? Good right hand to head and body from Woodall. He's taking a lot of Holmes' shots around the arms. It's quite difficult to see what is actually landing there. Again, close-ish.
But I feel that Holmes probably did a little bit more in that round. He just came forward more, just took the eye that little bit, and I think that was probably a Holmes round. But Woodall is equipping himself. He just needs to do more work.
Do it at your own pace, you understand? Do it at your own pace, outsmart them as you're doing, and then let go. But you've got to take advantages of his mistake, okay? You can't just let him go.
Right, right.
The unmistakable voice of the veteran Mickey Duff, trying to produce another world champion here. And he'd love to put one over on Don King, wouldn't he?
He certainly would, but I think we need a little bit more urgency from Woodall if he's going to take this title away.
Yes, so far just not quite enough devil and passion and urgency about Woodall's performance. But maybe he knows what he's doing in there. Fourth round. Then with Holmes in a 2-round lead at this point after 3. It's just worth making the point again that away from home and as the challenger, you've not only got to win, but win decisively, really. He's missing a lot, Holmes, but he's certainly throwing more leather. He's got the higher work rate.
You would expect Woodall to feel the stronger of the two in close and try and use that strength. Holmes has just recently moved up from light middleweight, so you would feel that Woodall would be the stronger of the two. You think that would come into his plans at some point?
Never taken off, even in Britain, as a headline name, Richie Woodall. He's just carried on with his business of winning and picking up his titles at Commonwealth, European level. Never craves any publicity or big headlines. That's just the way he likes it, but whether he likes it or not, if he can win this, he'll certainly make a few big headlines.
Woodall just getting a little closer, trying to use the jab more and just getting a bit better into range.
What he can't afford to do, Woodall, is slip significantly behind it on point, say, by the halfway stage of the fight, so he really is chasing it. Watch the low blows, says Arthur McCanty to Holmes. It's looking a bit looser, Woodall, now.
Yes, he was. He looked a little bit uptight in the first couple of rounds. Just starting to get that nice little bounce to his work now.
He's starting to be first, in the words of the cries you always hear from the fans at ringside.
Yes, well, for the first time in this fight, Woodall just starting to beat Holmes to the jab, and I think that's a significant factor.
Well, that was better from Woodall in that round. Whether he did enough to win it on the scorecards of the judges remains to be seen.
Richie, you're fighting a marvellous fight. Don't change nothing.
Take that.
Richie, your determination will win it. You got it?
Well, they're saying his determination will get him through. He certainly improved in that round. Did you think, Glenn?
Yes, a much better round. I think I would have given Woodall that round. He was just sharper, just a little bit more bounce in his work. And I think a good boxing performance in that round.
Take that.
American Express, how may I help you?
Let's see. Business class, I'll seat as usual.
Travel insurance? Let American Express help you do more.
Now, come on.
Well, they're trying to stir him up, Richie Woodall, at this Showplace Arena in Upper Marlborough, Maryland. Can he win the WBC World Middleweight title in the other guy's backyard? And it really is, because Holmes only lives up the road in Washington, or certainly grew up there anyway. Now lives in a residential suburb. Good stiff-looking southpaw jab, that one, from Keith Holmes. In the past, Woodall has once or twice seemed to struggle with the southpaw style.
But it is very much the chess match at this stage in the fight that we thought it would be. Both fighters still having a good look at each other. Nobody gambling at all.
Woodall certainly had trouble with Derek Wormel. That was his last fight back in January, and against Horace Fleary, another southpaw. Yes, it is one of those cagey chess match type of affairs, this.
But Woodall just can't allow to let his work rate slip. He's got to keep a high work rate. He's got to use the jab more and try and put some combinations in his attack.
Woodall trying to become the 8th British boxer to lift a world middleweight title. The others were Bob Fitzsimmons, Randolph Turpin, that fabulous one over Sugar Ray Robinson in 1951 at Earl's Court, Terry Downs, Alan Minter, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, and most recently Chris Pyatt, who held the WBO version of this championship, beaten by Ireland's Steve Collins for that. Crisp work there from Woodall. But just the suspicion, and it's just a feeling, having seen a lot of these type of fights for big championships, that Woodall will have to do rather more than this if he's going to take this World Championship away.
Yes, it's always a thought that you've got to go out there and take the title. You've got to really grab a hold of it, and you're not really going to get a close decision when you go in the other man's backyard, especially if the other man is the champion.
Quiet round. So 5 rounds gone. Keith Holmes, when he took the title against Quincy Taylor, kind of stepped it up a little bit from about this point in the operation, didn't he?
He did, and really this is where Woodall's got to try and step it up. He's got to try and pose himself a little more, do a little more work.
All right, let's go to work, man, okay? You catch him with some good body shots. And let's make those body shots count by going upside his head after catching to the body, man, okay? When you make a mix, you got to make him pay for it, man. Not just one single shot, 2 and 3, okay? And don't put too much in that